Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on object-oriented programming using C++. I am Mrs. Gitanjali Mahamodkar, lecturer and research scholar at Department of Computer Engineering, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Technological University, Lonere. So this is the 13th lecture in this lecture series titled Function Overloading, and this is going to cover what a function overloading is all about and the program related to it. If you haven't watched the lectures before this, please visit my channel Learn with GSM and watch the videos related to the topics that we need to first know, like function and all, so that we understand this topic in a better way. Okay, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Just hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you get the notifications whenever I upload any video. So for this lecture series, I am going to refer object oriented programming with C++, called by E. Balagurusamy, and object oriented programming in C++ by Robert Leffer. I will be implementing the programs that I will be teaching in this lecture on the online compiler IDE geeks4geeks.org. If you are watching this on a mobile or something, please make sure you have a machine with internet connection on which you can implement whatever I teach, and if you know, say it's good but not necessary to understand what I am teaching. So what function overloading is all about? Overloading basically refers to the use of the same thing for different purposes. So C++ also permits overloading of functions, right? And this means that we can use the same function name to create functions that perform a variety of different tasks, right? And this is known as function polymorphism in C++, or rather in OOP, and it can be used to design a family of functions with one function name but different argument list. So it could be different argument list, as in there could be different arguments in terms of numbers, in terms of the types of the arguments, okay, and otherwise the function name would be the same. So that is what function overloading is all about. But then let us understand how we can implement, let us understand it through a program so that we better understand how it is actually done. So when a function call is done, okay, let us first see a program in which what we will be doing is we will be calculating area of different geometric shapes, so like square, rectangle and circle, as of in this program, and then we'll be overloading a function called area 3 times, each for 3 times, once for square, the other for rectangle, and the third for circle. Okay, so let us see how we do this. So first we'll declare the 3 functions, the function prototypes. One would be returning an integer number after it calculates the area. Okay, it will be taking argument of type int. The other would again return an integer, but this time it will be taking 2 integers as the arguments. Okay, and the third one will be returning a floating point number, though its name again would be area, and it will be taking just one argument as in the first case, but this time the argument would be a floating point number. So here you can see we have named the 3 functions by the same name, that is area. Okay, the difference between all these 3 functions is either the number of arguments or the type of arguments, okay, and the return type, right? So this is how we overload a function. Okay, here we have overloaded the function area 3 times, right? So now in the main function what we are going to do is we are going to ask the user, okay, here in the main function actually what I'll be doing is I'll be calling the area function first for computing the area of a square. Okay, and here what I'll be doing is I'll be passing on side of the square, you need a length of the side, right, to calculate area of a square. If you know basic mathematics, you would know this. And then it will help me calculate the area, right, when I pass the value to this, and this would be it. Okay. The second time what I will be doing is, again I will be calling the area function, but this time for computing the area of a rectangle. So now you know why I am passing two arguments. It is for passing the length of the rectangle, which is 5, and breadth of the rectangle, here in this case it is 10. Okay. And then this is going to give me the area of the rectangle when I pass two values 5 and 10 to this function. Okay. Again I will just leave one line, and third time what I will be doing is, I will just copy and paste it. I will be computing the area of, let me tell you how it is. Okay. So here we are giving the area function, we are calling the area function for computing the area of a circle the third time. This time we are calling it for the circle, right, and this time I will be passing the radius, and hence it is going to be a floating point thing, like returning the floating point variable, as what is going to happen is it is going to multiply itself by 3.14 and all, and as you all know it is pi r square, right. So I will be passing 5.5 to it, and then it will be returning the results. Okay. So when I do this, I know I am done with the function prototype, I am done with the function call. What remains is the function definition, right, absolutely right. So here int area, and then I will pass int side. Now this function, what this function is going to do is, it is going to calculate for me area of square, right. Now how it is going to do that for me? It is going to return, what is the area of a square? Side square, right. So side into side, fine. And when I will be doing this for an rectangle, I will have to define this for a rectangle also, right. So here when I will be doing this for when I will be calculating area of a rectangle, the number of, see, this is when I was defining this function, I have defined it over here. Now I am defining this function, I will define it with two arguments. One is the length and the other is the breadth, right. And length into breadth is the area of the rectangle, I am sure you know this, length into breadth. So this is what it will return to me when I will pass on the arguments, respective arguments to it. And the third one, which is float area float, so I will have to just change this to float and this also to float when I will be calculating area of a circle, right. So here I will have to pass on the radius to this. Okay. And now what is the area of a square? Of course 3.14, that is pi r square. So r square is radius square, right. So radius into radius, right. So this is how it is going to work. And what is going to happen is, when I will call this function, see how it is going to evaluate it. What happens actually when you write such type of program in C++, wherein you have same name functions, okay, that is when you have overloaded a function, what happens, a function call first matches the prototype having the same number and type of arguments, and then calls the appropriate function for execution. So when I call area 5, it will jump, it will decide, it will check the prototype, okay, it will check the prototype. Okay, this is something which I am okay with. Okay, here the argument is same, number of argument is same, that is 1, the type is same, that is integer. So obviously I think this is the one that I am searching for, because this could have been, but this is a float and the value that I am passing is a integer, right. So maybe this is not the correct one, this is the correct one. So I have to jump to the definition of this function, which is over here. So when I pass 5 over here, I am going to get the area as 5 into 5, that is 25 for area of a square, right. So calling the area function for computing the area of square is going to give me 25, right. And then then what happens is, this is the best match, and it must be unique. When you write a function overloading program, you have to be sure of this, because function selection involves the following step. First, compiler first tries to find an exact match in which the types of actual arguments are the same and use that function. Okay, so here that happened, it matched. Then if an exact match is not found, the compiler uses the integral promotions to the actual argument, such as it can just do char to int or float to double to find a match. When either of them fails, the compiler tries to use the built-in conversions, that is the implicit assignment conversions to the actual arguments, and then uses the function whose match is unique. That is, if conversion is possible to have multiple matches, then the compiler will generate an error message. Suppose we use functions like long square long n, double square double x. So in that case, when you pass 5.5, it could be either long n or double n x, any one of it. So in this case, a function call such as square 10 will cause an error, right, because int argument cannot be converted either to long or double. So thereby creating an ambiguous situation as to which version of square should be used, right, because you are passing the integer and you have in the prototype, if you have long and double, then it is not possible to convert it to this data type, right. So there could be an such kind of ambiguous situation, and in this case what happens is you get an error. If all of the steps fail, then the compiler will try the user defined conversions in combination with integral promotions and built-in conversions to find a unique match. So user defined conversions are often used in handling class objects. Okay. So basically what we do is, we first try to match the number of argument and type of argument. Now here the number of argument has matched and the type of argument has also matched, so you call this function. In this case, you are passing two arguments, right, 5 and 10 both are integer, and in this case what happened is, basically this was the one where the type and number of argument both matched. So this was the function that was called in the second case. In the third case, the type of argument was this was type of argument was a floating point. Here it is same, and of course because of that, and the number of argument also matched, so you call this function, right, and you got the answer. So I hope you understand what it is and how it is. So this is about function overloading, and if you run this, you will know that the output would be 25 for calculating the area of square. Length area of rectangle is about 5 to 10, that is 50, and area of square after you pass 5.5 into 5.5 and into 3.14, then I have actually calculated it already, and that is 94.99. Okay, so that is how it is. And so the output doesn't matter. Basically, the main aim was to make you understand how a function overloading program looks like and how it is to be evaluated or understood, like how the execution is. So overloading of the functions should be done with caution. Like we should not overload unrelated functions and should reserve function overloading for functions that perform closely related tasks. So sometimes the default arguments, if you are like what is default argument, you need to watch the video related to default argument in the playlist on my channel. So please visit my channel, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel. So it may be used instead of overloading. Okay, this may reduce the number of functions to be defined. So overloaded functions are extensively used basically for handling class objects. Okay, and what are they? We are going to soon upload a video related to classes and objects. You need to watch it. And if you need to know when I upload it, please hit the bell icon after you subscribe to my channel, so that you get a notification when I upload the video. So as of now, I hope you have understood what function overloading is. Do not forget to like, comment and share my video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you.